Let's move over toward the center more.
Ooh, are we live?
I think. Hi, guys. Oh, good, you found it. I've been freaking out because I can't figure out why there's two options here. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, this is our very first live stream.
Yeah.
So
let's see what happens.
I thought it was as easy as clicking a button.
Yeah, not so
Apparently
much.
it's not. Oh well.
Yeah. Can you all hear me? Just want to make sure it's working okay.
Oh yeah, I think people are responding.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh, yay, it's working. That makes me so happy. I was like, I'm gonna have a panic attack, James. I don't know how to do this. Can you make sure Kelly has the link for this one? I think I have her on the wrong one. Oh, good. Yay! Oh, thank you, God. I feel like I could take a nap now.
Oh, I know. The adrenaline high is wearing off a little bit. Yeah, we have one of our great friends, Kelly.
Yeah.
Who has appeared in, I think, at least one video before.
Yeah.
To help us monitor all the comments. So
and I think I sent her to the wrong video. So because apparently there's two on YouTube, like this one and another one. So I don't know why. So I couldn't figure out why that was. But I'm so excited too. I'm so glad you guys are here. Yeah, I feel so blessed that you're all joining us today. So I'll just cry. We're both really tired.
We have a box of tissues here. Yeah,
I know.
That's true. Natalie has started sleeping in her bed.
Yeah, in her crib, which is so nice. She's been in a bassinet in our room until like 3 nights ago. So she is such a big girl now, but I don't sleep super well because I'm so nervous. So I've been up like every hour or two for the past few nights and I'm so tired. So if I get emotional, that's why. Watching you at the gym, Hannah, that is so awesome. I love that.
Ooh, someone
hello
says
from England.
Hello from Ukraine.
Oh, hello from Ukraine.
So cool.
England. Wait, where is it? We are gonna be in England in May, so we'll be announcing that soon. But we're gonna have a couple speaking events there, and I'm like super excited. We're bringing Natalie and everything from Argentina. Yay! That's so exciting.
Wow.
So
Colorado, Australia,
guys,
Ireland. Ooh, that's
this
so
is
fun.
So fun. Okay, so the way we'll have this work is you can basically just write in any questions you have about dating. And my friend Kelly's just going to go through them, make sure like if there's ones that a lot of people are asking, she's going to text it to us. If there's ones that she just like is like, oh yeah, we'll just get through as many as we can today. I'm sure we won't be able to get to all of them, but we're going to do our best to get as many as we can and just share like our opinion. So yeah. So you can just kind of write in your questions whenever you want, but we'll just start with Julia's right now. And oh my gosh, people are from everywhere. It's so exciting.
Wow, that's amazing. Some people from Norway.
Oh,
Croatia.
We were just in Norway in January last year.
Oh my goodness. Croatia is such a neat country.
Oh yeah, we were there last year or the year before.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Oh, I like this one from what is a healthy age to begin dating?
Ooh, that's such
actual
a good question.
Dating. I think that's such a good question because I think what you have to think about, what does actual dating mean for you?
Yeah.
Like,
there's so many definitions.
Yeah.
Like there's going on a date with a guy, or like there's actually being in a steady relationship with him. There's being like in a serious relationship. Like there's so many levels of dating.
I feel like you have to kind of crawl before you can walk. And so I think it's important to practice going on dates.
Yeah.
And just kind of figuring that out. Because there's kind of an art to that in and of itself. And then once I think you've gone on some dates and you feel like, oh, that was healthy, I got to be myself and this person seemed to be themselves too, then
that's like, I feel like that's what a successful date is. Like you both were able to be yourself. That's the hardest thing to do on a date. And that is like, to me, that's success.
That's
like whether or not you ever see the person again.
That's not to say you like air all your dirty laundry with them, because that's a little weird.
Yeah, first date, you want to have some boundaries. You've done that?
Yeah.
I'm sure I've done that too.
But you don't want to be like, you want to be able to be yourself.
Yeah. Feel like comfortable in your skin. So I guess as far as what age, I think it really depends on the person. I don't think there's a right age or a wrong age. I mean, we have some friends, this is like extremely rare, but we have some friends who started dating when they were 11 and they got married and they've been married like 15 years now. So like that's extremely unusual, extremely unusual, but it does happen. So, but I think most of our friends, the people they married, they met in their 20s. But yeah, I think it just depends on knowing yourself and having people that you trust who can kind of help you navigate that.
Oh, we have a bunch of really good ones.
Okay, Kelly's texting them to us. Thank you,
Kelly. Do you
Kelly,
have any tips on how to talk to a boy when you meet each other for the first time?
Oh, I'm so bad at that.
That is really, that's difficult. Because I think it's equally difficult for guys, like especially if you like a person, even when you don't know them, it sort of throws off your game because you've like had a conversation with them in your mind so many times that you can't necessarily be yourself.
It's like hard too.
Yeah.
I think my biggest tip is like focus on, this is true, I think, for anybody, like try to focus on helping the other person feel loved and comfortable. And then you kind of forget about your insecurities as much and you're able to like be yourself more because you're like focused on like helping each other feel comfortable, if that makes sense. And then finding like common ground, something you both can talk about. I think having like different topics that you know how to talk about can help. So it's not just like one thing you know how to have a conversation about, because then you can find equal ground and kind of talk back and forth.
Most people are interested and able to talk about themselves. And especially, like, I don't know how young you are, but the guys you're dating, you know, if they're under 18, they might be difficult to talk to, period. I know I have trouble talking to the guys in the youth group that I help with. They're like, what do you like to do? Video games?
Yeah.
So, you know, don't feel like you're making it weird.
Yeah. It just is weird sometimes. Yeah. And you have to give it more than one shot usually of like getting comfortable together.
Oh, this is a great one from Ruthie. What is the worst piece of common Christian dating advice that you've heard?
Oh my gosh, only date someone you can marry. Like, I know it's okay if you do that, but this is my pet peeve. I think people go into relationships before they even know the person thinking I could marry him. I think you should date a little bit first and see if you actually are good together before you even think about the marriage aspect. I think it just puts too much pressure on a relationship. It builds this false sense of intimacy. And it's like horrible to break up with someone when you've like been expecting you're going to marry them, even though you don't know them. Yeah.
In your mind. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. I think I would agree. That's good. Here's another one. Someone says sexual boundaries advice.
Ooh.
And I'll answer that in the context of I'm dating someone. I really like them. We want to save sex for marriage. We want to honor God.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the question you have to ask yourself is how can I honor God in this relationship and legitimately pray to God about that? Because I know a lot of times I've been tempted to be like, oh, I don't know if I want to pray about that. Not a good sign.
Yeah.
You got to be able to pray about this.
And I do think boundaries look a little different for different people. I know some people kind of think they're black and white for everyone. I don't think that's true. I think some people, for example, won't want to kiss before their wedding night, and that's totally fine. And other people will be okay kissing while they're dating, and that's totally fine. It just kind of depends on really listen to your conviction and the Holy Spirit inside you, and get like people you trust and get their advice. We have a video we did about how far is too far, and we talk about like talking to different couples who you admire and trust and saying, what do you think? Like, what were your boundaries? What do you wish they were? And just kind of hearing from different people. And I think that can be really helpful. Does that make sense, do you think?
Yes.
Okay. Oh my gosh, you guys have so many good questions.
Yeah.
Kelly's texting us and like circling ones in bold. Kelly, you're awesome.
Okay. And so here's two that kind of go together. Someone asked about emotional boundaries in a Christian relationship, and someone says, should you pray together before marriage?
Oh.
I remember being a teenager and hearing prayer is the most intimate thing you can do with a person.
Yeah,
so
I remember
it's
that being
completely
said
inappropriate
too.
to pray with someone that you're not married to.
I remember that too. I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know that I do either. So as far as spiritual and emotional boundaries, I think, you know, you're wanting to get to a place where you're comfortable sharing anything with a person.
Eventually, not right away.
But not right away. And that person, even if that person you're dating them, they have to earn that. They have to kind of earn that trust, and only you can determine when you're comfortable sharing something.
Yeah.
And so I think it's totally fine to kind of be your own person, to disagree theologically. Tiffany and I disagree about a lot of theological things. It used to make me really uncomfortable.
I mean, the core things we agree on, and that's important too. But like, there's a lot of little things we're like, I don't know if I agree. So that's healthy discussion and dialogue. And
if someone asked about red flags, I would say a red flag in a Christian relationship specifically is controlling. There are a lot of Christian guys, I'm not exactly sure why, that just believe that they ought to lead the relationship, which means being the boss. And
well, lead the relationship can look different for different people. Sometimes, like, it depends on the person how it looks. But a lot of guys have taken that idea and turned it into I want to be the boss of this relationship, and I should be able to tell you what to do, and kind of control things. And that's a really dangerous sign. I mean, even if you look at like the example that Jesus sets in the Bible of like how he treats us, like he is not controlling. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to describe that adequately. We have a video called What Submission Means to Us that you can check out too. But yeah, the idea of control, either the girl trying to be in control or the guy, that's so unhealthy because it's not honoring the other person or listening to them. Going back to the emotional boundaries one though, we do have a video called Untold Truth About Guarding Your Heart. The thumbnail says emotional purity. And that talks more about emotional boundaries. But part of it, I think, is letting the intimacy, like where you guys are as far as what you're sharing, how much you're putting your heart out there and investing, that kind of isn't going too far too fast, that you're letting that grow with time and building trust over time. It's easy to be like, especially I think in Christian relationships, like all in immediately. And I just think that's real dangerous. Can you hear Natalie in the background?
Yeah. Yeah.
She's talking. Let me show you her. Pardon our messy background. Okay.
Oh, yes.
Can you see her? Ah, there she is. Hey, Natalie. Hey, Natalie. She's kind of hidden.
Natalie has one job, to grab things and to stick them in her mouth.
Yeah.
She takes her job very seriously.
Yeah. And by the way, Emily, I agree. I ran from controlling guys too. After being in a relationship with one, it was really bad.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I think this is such a good question. It's a little, I don't know if it's too explicit. As someone who says newlywed, coming up on a year, struggle with having a desire for sex.
Oh, yeah.
Loves her husband, but just is not really interested in sex.
I think that's true for a lot of women, especially like if they haven't gotten to figure out what makes them enjoy sex, if that makes sense, which is going to be different for different women. And so I think that's a normal thing. It's often a sign that you have to like grow into it more and experiment more together and just like try different things. We talk a lot about that in the wedding night talks. But one of the books that I recommend is called The Big O, and you can just kind of try out different things and kind of figure out what helps you enjoy sex. And usually that helps you have more of a desire for it.
Yeah, but you shouldn't feel guilty about that.
No. It's a learning curve getting to know your body, and that's so normal. Yeah.
So I think the first thing is expressing to your husband, who probably has no idea what's going on unless you use words to tell him. Because we have no idea what's going on unless you use words to tell us.
Yeah, that's true for girls too. Words need to be used in marriage a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But I feel like that's pretty normal. Let's see. Ooh.
How did this? Did we do that one?
Okay. How do you know a guy is a true Christian?
Oh, wow. What a good question. I think part of it is getting to know his circle, like the people who like see who he is around different kinds of people, and around the people he's closest to, and like what they just the things they say about him in passing. And yeah, I think that's a big thing, like how the people who know him well, how they talk about him, and having people well get to know him too.
Yeah, one of my mentors has said that he's the director of a Christian ministry that we live that it's nearby, and he said, James, I've come to believe that the only thing that really matters in life are the little things. And so I would say if you're watching the little things, the little interactions. When you can tell something is frustrated, what's that reaction? That's how you see what someone, one, really is, because no one's perfect, and two, how do they deal with their brokenness?
Yeah,
is it something they're bringing it to God, or are they trying to whitewash it?
That's huge. How people deal with their brokenness is huge. They deal with it by turning to addictive behaviors or to even video games or like losing themselves in another world. There's nothing wrong with video games, but like if they're trying to bury their brokenness and pain in it, that's a big warning sign. Yeah. But I think, the little things and I think you kind of see it over time because anybody can put on a show, and especially if they're like a worship leader at a church, like you don't really know. They can look like a huge, true Christian, like or somebody really close to Jesus, and are just faking it.
Because ultimately, that's not your place to determine if someone's really a Christian.
That's so
It's
true.
more your place to determine, is this person a Christian who is a good fit for me?
Yeah.
And honestly, if you've been dating for someone for a while and you're still wondering, they're probably not a good fit for you. Oh man, so many good questions, but I've seen a couple.
I know. I feel like we're going so fast.
Yeah,
I hope we're doing these.
So many questions. A couple questions of people who have either in a relationship and felt like they've gone too far physically and it's difficult to stop.
Yeah.
Or someone who is saying, I've made mistakes. Is the surprise of marriage ruined?
Oh, those are great questions.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Oh, that's heavy stuff. Oh, that's good. Yeah. I think sometimes, who was it? One of my YouTuber friends did a video about this recently. I think sometimes we almost put too much of our identity in, I don't want to say this wrong, in like doing everything right. And while it's important to honor God and just with all our hearts honor him the best we can, we all do make mistakes. That doesn't mean we're all going to make sexual mistakes, but we all make mistakes in different areas of life. And sometimes we put too much of our identity in whether or not we've made certain mistakes, especially sexual ones in the church.
Or very, very mistakes that are very easy to delineate. I've never been drunk.
Right.
I've never had sex.
Yeah.
I've never done drugs.
And
I've never overeaten.
Yeah. And
I've never cursed.
While those things are good, and like definitely pursue that, I also think when we fall off of, when we don't reach that, or when we make a mistake, it's easy to think that we're ruined. So I'll give you an example. When I was with my first boyfriend, I went further with him than I ever wanted to go with a guy before marriage. And when I got out of that relationship, I felt so broken and second class. I literally felt like God could never work through my life again. I'll cry thinking about it. I'm also really tired, but crying is good. But I felt like I was so broken that God could never work through my life again. But I always wanted to like be doing different ministries and stuff. And I was like, I can never do that. And what I felt like God reminded me of was the story of David, and how David was a man after God's own heart. And God said that about him. And yet God knew that David would make all these horrible mistakes. And he chose David anyway as the king of Israel, and chose David and called him a man after his own heart anyway. And so I think like, even when we've made mistakes, to realize that's not where our identity lies. Our identity is only in what God has done for us, and not in what we have done. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's really good. And one thing I'll add is, you will find no matter what sin you find yourself in, no matter if it's sexual or otherwise, you will find, and I remember this from struggling looking at pornographic images in high school, I felt like I literally could not stop. I was like, wow, this is unhealthy. I know this is wrong. I feel terrible afterwards. I feel so guilty, but I just can't stop. And I think that for me, I had to go to God and say, God, I can't stop sinning. Part of me doesn't even want to stop. Will you please help me? Will you please change me? And, in my case, I felt like God took that away from me pretty quickly. For other people, it doesn't necessarily happen quickly, but I think you need to come to grips with, I am broken and I can't fix myself. And on some level, that's okay, because that's why the blessing of having salvation through Jesus and Jesus being good is so wonderful, because it doesn't matter that you're broken and you can't fix yourself.
Yeah.
That's not the premise of having a relationship with God.
And that doesn't mean that you don't take steps to working through that, and like finding people who can walk with you through that, who can hold you accountable, who can encourage you. That's all so important to honor God and, keep becoming more like Jesus. But just to realize like we all are broken in different ways, and that's not where our identity lies. I hope that makes sense. It's so hard to like talk on the spot sometimes about these things. So hopefully that makes sense. And by the way, someone I think said like, you cry a lot. I do. I cry all the time. Let me tell you, my best friend was shocked when I met James. Before I met James, I like literally never cried. My best friend was like, I don't think I've ever seen you cry. And we've been best friends for like years. I met James, the waterworks started and they've never stopped. I think he like made a part of me come alive that was just like closed off before that. I'm serious. Find a guy who loves you to life. So that's my thing. Okay.
So we do have a number of questions about singleness.
I'm glad you cry a lot too.
People who are single in a new city, they're like, I smile, but like, how do I meet people? People who say, I'm single, I want to date someone. Even someone earlier who said like, I'm 15 and really obsessed with boys. Is that normal?
I was.
Yeah, I don't know if it's
normal, but I was.
I think it's pretty normal. Think of the teens we
work with.
And it's in church. Yeah. They all,
It depends on the person for sure, but it's okay if you are.
Yeah. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Meeting people.
That's tough. Because a lot depends on your personality, what you'll be comfortable with. So like I'm an introvert, James is an extrovert. So he will walk up to people at random places and start conversations. I do not do that. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it depends on what you're comfortable with. some things that can be helpful are getting involved in a church, but not just going to church, like really getting involved, because, grow a community. And then you can like even have some sort of get together or go to get togethers where different people invite different friends, even from outside that community, to like widen your circle.
Yeah, it's almost, I think especially when you're in a new place or you want to meet, well, if you want to date someone, I think that you need to sort of have a large pool of dateable people. And so you need to be aggressive, might be too strong a word, but you need to say, you know what, even if I'm an introvert, I'm going to spend 1 or 2 nights a week trying to build relationships, either with people, trying to build relationships with people I don't know as well, or new people. And a lot of times, anytime you're able to make a friend, that person has a bunch of friends that you don't know.
Yeah.
And then those people have friends that you don't know too. And it's much more natural to meet people through other people than it is to meet a random person at a bar, a random person at a church, or a random person at a coffee shop. And there's a lot of safety in meeting people through other people as well.
Yeah.
But I think really, no matter where you are, there are other single people who have a lot of time. They want to hang out. They want to do fun things. So even if you're like, wow, there's this group of guys and I'm not attracted to any of them, well, they might have friends that you are attracted to. So, I think you want to.
Yeah, it's true. And just building relationships with different people.
Yeah. While we're on the topic of singleness, Kelly texts, we have a lot of questions about enjoying singleness.
Oh, okay, girls. Let me say something. If you haven't watched my video, first of all, called How to Enjoy Being Single, you totally should. But let me just say this, and maybe it can set you free, like it sets me free. But I think we're told in church that you have to enjoy being single. I've heard so many times people be like, once I became content and enjoyed this, I wasn't looking for a husband. That's when God sent my husband. And I was like, well, how do I get there so that I can get married? And
that's not the way God works, by the way.
Yeah. And first of all, can I just say that I truly believe that I became content being single about 3 years before I met James. And I was single for another 3 years. And I love that that is my story, because it's not what you hear all the time in church. And I don't think it's anywhere in the Bible that we have to always enjoy being single. It is okay if it sucks sometimes. That is normal. That is okay. Every season of life has things that are really hard about it and things that are really good about it. And singleness is no different. And it's okay if it's hard sometimes. It's okay if you don't like it sometimes. I think we put all this pressure on ourselves to do something that God never asked of us. Like, there's this really cool story in the Old Testament about this. It's a really long, convoluted story. But basically this girl was gonna end up dying, and she was still single. And she said, can I have 3 days to go and mourn with my friends the fact that I'm going to die a virgin? That was her request. And I think that that's so cool, just to like give voice to that part of us that's like, I want to be in a relationship. And that's a desire that's okay. And it's beautiful to have. And sometimes it's hard, and that's okay too. Practical things you can do to enjoy it are, I think, redefine contentment, which I don't think contentment means you're always happy about something. It's instead a surrendered state of heart to say, like, God, this is what I really want, but I'm surrendering to you. I'm trusting you with my future. And I think that's what contentment is. Yeah, but watch my video, How to Enjoy Being Single, and that I think can help a lot too.
Yes. Someone else, Emily asks, I want to date I just lost it. Let's see. I don't want to date in high school, but I'm worried that the pressure to do so will be too much. What should I do?
You don't want to date, but the pressure will be too much.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I got distracted because I saw someone asking about all the guys I talk about in my book, Boy Crazy. You know, one of them, we're really good friends with him and his wife. We like double date all the time. And they have a son who I say is Natalie's future husband, which I will not say after Natalie's old enough to understand what I'm saying. But for now, it's funny.
Oh my goodness.
But the rest of them, I don't think I don't really keep in touch. One of them I like follow on social media because I think it's cool what he and his wife do. But other than that, I don't keep in touch with them. So
okay.
Hi. Okay. Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Natalie.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I would say, high school is such an interesting time because I don't think there's ever a time in a person's life, maybe college and some little bit high school, where everyone is so freaking obsessed with what everyone else thinks.
That is so true.
It's like literally ludicrous. It's funny because we've been working as like volunteers and with a high school class, with high school students, like 9th through 12th grade here in the U.S. And they're like, you can tell their lives are like so revolve around what other people think about them.
Yeah, it is like a very much a pure oriented time of life.
Yeah. And so I think it's, I think you're going to change a lot in high school. So it's fine to say, I don't feel like dating right now, and to say, well, I don't think I like him, or I'm not really that interested.
Yeah.
And I think if you stick to your guns, if you have good friends, they're going to be cool with that. It's the friends who try to peer pressure you that are bad news.
Yeah.
And they're not actually your friends. They're just trying to use you for entertainment value. They're like, oh, let's see what we can get Emily to do.
Yeah, they're just not that. I think you want to surround yourself with people who help you become who you want to be, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I think that's great advice. Just surround yourself with people who are going to be that. And that can be sometimes hard to find in your high school. And so even finding that like through other outlets can be helpful too, but just have those people who will encourage you.
Yeah. We have some questions on age difference. Someone wants to know the age difference between Tiffany and I.
I'm a cradle robber.
Yeah, Tiffany is a year and a half older than I am, but we met when we were 20.
Well, we met when we were kids.
Well,
our moms went to a birth class together, and my mom was pregnant with my sister, who's the same age as him, and so our moms were at birth class together, and I was playing there too as a little 1-year-old. So how fun is that?
Yeah,
it's weird.
It could be weird. And also, we take it as being funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, the older you get, especially the older you get above 20. And 25, I would say 25, age gaps start to matter less.
Yeah.
Like we have some pretty good friends. I think they're 9 years apart. The guy is 9 years, but I think he was 38 when they got married, and she was maybe 29. Did I do the math right?
Yeah, and we have the reverse too. My youth pastor growing up, the wife was 7 years older than the guy, but they met when they were older.
Yeah, you have to be more, I would say, more mature for that. And it's also like we've talked to these couples about that. They said it is a significant difference.
Right.
It's like marrying someone from a different culture, because there's so much different when you have that much of an age gap. The energy levels, the cultural references. So it's definitely something that you really need to talk through and talk a lot about. So if you're in a relationship where there's an age gap and it's never mentioned, not healthy.
Yeah.
Not healthy. You're
And if you're under 25, I would be more cautious, just because psychologically, they say that your brain finishes developing at 25. So you're not fully who you are until that point. And it can be really easy for the older person to kind of try and I don't know, or for you to just kind of mold yourself to the older person instead of discovering who you are. And so I think it's, if you're younger and there's a big age gap, really have people who know you well, who are speaking into your relationship, to make sure that you're not just kind of trying to become who you think the other person wants you to be, which is easy to do. Yeah. But the older you get, the more you know who you are.
Yeah. So someone asked earlier, I'm 16. Can I date someone who's 3 years older than me? I don't know.
It depends. It depends. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say no.
I would say it just depends. Yes, but just make sure you're being aware of that, and that you again have people who are making sure you're not conforming to be who you think he wants you to be.
Yeah. I mean, you could go on dates with it, but I don't think I'd want anything serious.
Really?
If you were 16 years old, why would you?
I don't know. I guess that's okay. If it was 7 years, that'd be different. But that'd be, I don't know. I guess one of those differences of opinion. Yeah. I don't know. Just have people who you trust, who know you both, and speak into it.
Yeah. Someone also asked, interestingly enough, is it okay to date people from different denominations?
Oh, yeah.
And I think the answer is, if you are, let's say, a Baptist, and you think God has called me to be a Baptist,
and only go to a Baptist church,
then you should probably only date Baptists. If you're a Roman Catholic, you believe God has definitely called me to be a Roman Catholic, then you should probably only date Roman Catholics. But I think for a lot of us, myself included, it's I'm a Christian, and the different denominations, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, certainly you want to have some common grounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
But certainly if, one person thinks speaking in tongues is not a thing, and the other person speaks in tongues all the time,
right,
you're going to have an issue.
You have to work through that.
You need to work through. That doesn't mean you can't date.
Right.
But a lot of these questions, you're like, oh, I'm at the restaurant and I don't think I can try this new food. No, you can try the new food. You can go out on a date. I think the question is more, do you want to have a long-term relationship with someone? And it's totally cool to go on, it's okay to go on some dates with someone and realize, wow, this maybe I've enjoyed my time with this person, but can I really see myself dating them? Maybe not.
Yeah, I think it will really depend on you and your preferences. We were different denominations when we met, and it was just, finding a church to call home together was kind of the big thing in our first year of marriage. And it was a journey. And it was
even that wasn't something we totally really agreed on. I really wanted to go to a church that had kind of an inner city ministry, and it was really tough for Tiffany. There wasn't a lot of community there.
Well, I think that was not so much denomination. That was just like preferences, which I think will be true in any relationship. You'll have like different preferences. Like there's nobody our age at that church, and that was a big thing for me. Whereas for James, he was like, oh, I got friends our age. So
another thing is music. Tiffany really likes when a church has great music, and I
do.
I went to a church for many years that had music that was basically like 1850s like. And so it didn't really bother me that it was like old slow hymns. It's like, okay.
Yeah. It's just like being aware with the denominations. It's like, that's totally fine to be with someone from another denomination. I think Jesus is what it's all about, right? So I think it's just realizing like there'll be differences, but that'll be true no matter who you're with. There'll be differences and different preferences, and you'll just have to work it through. And that's, just make sure that the differences are things you're willing to work through and compromise on.
Yeah.
So
someone asked, Jody's asked this twice, so I want to get to it. How do you discern if you're in a single season or if God is calling you to court? I've met someone I'm attracted to, but I'm uncertain if he has a relationship with God. So there's a couple things that I think are interesting about that. I would say, I think that you're doing a lot of praying, which is good, but I think if you're attracted to someone, that you can get to know them better to find out if they have a relationship with God. Because, you could think from observing someone from afar, hey, this person has a great relationship with God because they serve in church or because they have a Bible, but you don't know what they're really like. So regardless of what someone appears to be, whether they appear to be Christian or appear not to be, you need to find out what they're really like in order to know if you would want to date them more seriously.
Yeah.
And so honestly, I think that's really the first step is to know you're attracted to this guy, see if he might be attracted back, because it might be that he's not, and you're like, oh well, I guess I'm going to be single, and for now, yeah, that's good advice. Someone else says, is dating a person in a different denomination the same as like a person in a different culture? I think it's just one of those. I guess it could be depending on the denomination and how vastly different they are, like your experiences at church are and your preferences. But I think it's just one of those things that it's like what you're used to. Like there's a lot of things in marriage that you have to like come to an agreement on, and you're both compromising and kind of figuring out what works for you as a couple. And that it could also be just like that. Yeah.
If that makes sense. But yeah.
Oh, Rochelle has a really good question. One of her guy friends has been relying on her a lot for emotional support. She's worried that the relationship is becoming too intimate. How do you set boundaries without hurting someone who's very insecure?
That's a really good question.
That is tough. And you know what? In order to help him, you might need to do something that he thinks is hurtful.
Yeah.
I.e., perhaps remove yourself a little bit from the situation.
It kind of depends because every situation is so personal. But yeah, sometimes setting boundaries, which are healthy, is hurtful to the other person if they're not used to it. And there's not always a way around that.
Yeah, but we make it sound like it's bad. But if someone is basically impeding on your boundaries, like if I was always talking to Tiffany like this, it's just inappropriate.
Yeah. I think it depends on the situation. That's something I would really see if you can find someone you trust.
Yeah.
To kind of
ideally someone who maybe knows both of you.
And knows the situation and kind of get their input. Because it's like, that's tricky. It's like, there's so many, I mean, we'd have to know like the whole situation.
Because God rarely calls you to be the confidant of someone of the opposite sex. Do you think that's true?
I don't know.
Okay. Maybe that's not as true as I made it sound.
I might not say it. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of things for like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
and you can see we have different perspectives on a lot of things.
Yeah. I think it's more like just being aware of anytime you're the only person someone is relying on, I think that's kind of dangerous territory, if that makes sense. You shouldn't be, especially if they're really insecure, working through a lot, you shouldn't be the only person in their support system. They need more than just you. So that's the part that makes me especially worried.
Yeah. So I would say even if it was a girl who was having a tough time and you were her only support system, that's unfair to you.
Yeah.
God calls us to live in community with a
Yeah.
lot of people supporting one
So
another.
I would really encourage them to get more involved. See if you can kind of bring them along with you into different communities to meet some new people, even to get some other, older guys investing into his life, or just kind of help him set up that if you can. And then set healthy boundaries. What's healthy for you, instead of worrying about, is he going to be okay with this? Think, what's healthy for me, and stick with those boundaries. And even if he's a little hurt by it, you can do it in a kind way, but stick with them. And the book Boundaries by Dr. Cloud and Townsend is amazing.
That's
I highly
really good.
recommend it.
Yeah, there's a book called Boundaries, and then there's a book called Boundaries in Dating.
Oh, yeah.
And they're both really good.
By the same authors. Yeah, they're really good.
A couple people have asked if we're going to save this video. Yes.
Yes, that's the hope.
Saved.
As long as nothing fails me in the technology. I'm like really nervous that something's going to go wrong.
Oh,
but
I think the videos are meant to be saved.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you have any advice for people who want to start dating after having an abusive childhood, or perhaps an abusive relationship? We'll just say an abusive past.
That's such a good question. I think it's you really need to do some inner healing. I know that might sound cliche, but like really, if you can find a counselor to work with you through that or something. I know that was huge for me, because like I dated this one guy and he wasn't even totally abusive, maybe borderline. I don't know. He was like very controlling, manipulative, like a lot of like, I guess you could say maybe emotional abuse. And when I married James, I thought I had worked through a lot of it already. I'd like been meeting with my pastor and his wife once a month for like 3 years and worked through a lot. But we got together, and all of a sudden in James, I started to see it wasn't even James. It was like James would do something and I would think of it the way.
It's almost like a PTSD type thing. Yeah, it's a flashback.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so you start to kind of like treat the other person as if they were that ex that was abusive. And that can be the same thing if it was a parent or whatever. So I started going to counseling again, and that's been so helpful. So I think it's just super important to like really work through that deep part of that, find that healing, because that can seep into your current relationship. So, but but you can do that while you're in a relationship or while you're single, just as long as you're doing it and not just shutting it down. Yeah, you're hearing the babe in the background playing.
All right, so we've gotten, someone has asked this question. So 42 years old, still a virgin, still waiting on God to send husband. How do you deal with the overwhelming loneliness in the meantime?
Oh, yeah.
That is, there is no question that is difficult.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to acknowledge I'm in a really difficult situation. What God has called me to do to right now is really tough.
Right.
And you can even tell God, I don't like this. I mean, I'm sure you are. Like being honest with God.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think God has each of us sort of on different paths. And I always think of it sort of like a roller coaster. Like if you and your friend get on the roller coaster at 2 different times and it's 2 different roller coasters, you might be going up and they're going down and they're screaming and you might still be going flat. And it's not a contest to see, who's going to get to what first. And so I think, especially in times of loneliness, which come even sometimes when you're married, you'll still struggle with periods of loneliness. It's important to know that being with God is really the only way to deal with your loneliness. And
also finding real good community. I feel like it's hard for me to talk to this only because I feel like I can't do it justice. Like I feel like if someone walked in those shoes, they'd be able to do it more justice, if that makes sense. And but I think like finding that community of people in your life who you can have that fellowship with, or finding ways to give back to like that are fulfilling to you. And you're probably already doing that, but like whether that's serving or like volunteering or whatever it is, or, finding some girls that need a mentor that you can pour into their lives, just ways to like fill your life with meaningful relationships, because we were made for relationship. God made us for relationships and connection with people. And so to find other ways to have that, even while you're single, that's huge. And that can be really hard, but it is so important, I think. So that's what I would say. But yeah, my gosh, you guys, these questions are so good. I'm like, I need to just like digest them more and like just do videos on them, because I'm like, can't even think through it all yet. They're so good. And we have to go in about 10 minutes, just so you all know. So we'll take a few more questions. And then maybe we'll just make this a regular thing. Like live stream like once a month or something. I don't know. Like, would you guys be into that? We could just like do questions. So maybe we'll do that.
Yeah. Here's a good question. How do you let go of jealousy of someone's past, especially if it was sexual?
Yeah.
And then along those lines, someone says, is it bad that I'm a virgin and I want to marry a virgin so that, we both have a similar experience on our wedding night?
Ooh. Yeah. That's actually a video that we're planning to make. We've been talking about it recently. Like, well, I guess it's a little different, but like, what do you do if like you've saved sex and the other person hasn't, or you haven't saved sex and the other person has? So we've been wanting to do it. We're wanting to do a video on that.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what the question is?
Yeah. Well, I think the jealousy, like letting go of someone's past, I think that's anytime you're jealous of something in a relationship, it usually has more to do with you than it does with what that person has done.
It depends. I think there's
that depends on the situation.
There's different kinds of jealousy. There's like, we actually have a video about jealousy in relationships and how that has impacted our marriage, because I was very jealous the first year. So that is a video on my YouTube page too. But I think there's two kinds of jealousy. There's jealousy that's like legitimate. I don't want to call it legitimate, but like jealousy that's based on something legitimate he's doing. Like he's flirting with other girls. He's being untrustworthy in some way. That's like you should feel jealous. That should be happening. Or, maybe not jealous, but you should be dealing with that. Like that's a normal feeling to be feeling. And then there's jealousy that's like, I'm kind of reading into this based on my past experiences or his past experiences. It's not something that he's doing. It's more like something in my own heart. And so that's the kind that I think you have to go dig a little deeper and figure out like what's causing that, what is going on. And so for us, when we got married, I got really jealous the first year, and I started seeing, that was when I started counseling too. So I would talk to my counselor and be like, where is this coming from? And we just kind of dug a little deeper to figure out like what was causing it. And now like I very rarely get jealous, which is really cool, even though I got jealous all the time before. And so I think like digging deeper, finding what was going on inside me that was causing that was huge.
Yeah, but certainly if someone is sort of unrepentant or dismissive of their past, then I think that it's something that you definitely need to work through. Like there were some things where when Tiffany and I were first dating where I really did pay attention to other girls instead of her, and it was really hurtful. And I needed to ask her forgiveness, and she really wasn't able to move on until I said, wow, I am really, really sorry with how I hurt you. Because for a while, my stance was, well, I don't do anything wrong, so I don't need to apologize.
Like, why is this a big deal?
Yeah. But I finally had to realize I've hurt the woman I love. Of course I need to apologize.
Right. Yeah. And that was huge for us. So that's a good point. Like being dismissive or like not taking it seriously is so important. Yeah. Or it's not. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I feel like my brain is on overload.
But then the question on wanting to only marry a virgin. I've had a couple of friends who they were virgins when they got married. They really wanted to marry a virgin, and the person that they fell in love with and married is someone who had sex before they became a Christian. And, I remember talking to one of my friends, and he was like, yeah, on some level it's disappointing, but like, I love her so much that it's not that big of a deal. So I think like abstractly, I think it's fine to want that. But I think when you grow to love someone and you realize, hey, God has changed this person, then the fact that they're a sinner is okay, because you're a sinner too. You just maybe don't have the same specific sins that they have.
I think we put so much emphasis on what people have or haven't done as opposed to like what God has done in their lives. And I think we need to be focused far more on like, who has God transformed this person to be, if that makes sense, and who are they?
Yeah. Now, Caitlin is asking, and I think a couple other people have asked, how do you know when you're in love?
Oh.
And I think, I think that there's a couple of different things that you can call love. I mean, there are times where I've met someone like a woman or even sometimes a guy, not in a sexual way for the guy, but I've thought I have a connection with this person. Oh my goodness. Like, it's just like, it's something that I just like, I feel this connection, whether it's through talking to them or just seeing them and them seeing me. And you'll definitely, I think, feel that throughout your life. Yeah. And I don't think that's love.
Yeah, you'll feel that on and off throughout your life. And it's just this like connection with people, which is very normal. Yeah.
And I think once you get to know someone, especially in a romantic way, and you think about them all the time and you just love being with them and you're obsessed with them, you'll also feel that. And it's a great feeling, but I don't think that that's love either.
That like being in love feeling. Yeah, that chemistry.
Yeah.
Which we had, /had. I'm getting just loopy
and so,
now.
Yeah, but I think yeah, I mean, having a special connection, being obsessed with the person that you're dating, with eventually with the person you married, is a wonderful thing. But ultimately, when you're saying, "Hey, I'm going to be with you for the rest of my life," there are going to be emotional highs and lows that go in that.
Yeah.
And love is not. That's why wise people say love is not a feeling, because I love Tiffany every day on days when I feel amazing and on days when nothing literally can go right.
Yeah.
I had a day like that earlier this week, and it's terrible. I was literally like, nothing can go right today.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I love Tiffany less. I just feel bad about everything.
Yeah, it's true. I think, I think in Greek, there's actually different definitions for the word love. There's like friendship love, romantic love, and agape love. And so I think that that's true in our lives too. So what should we do? Maybe one or two more questions, and then we'll need to call it a day. Let's do two more questions, and then we'll call it a day for today. And we'll just make this a more regular thing since you guys are down. So
okay,
I think that'd be really fun.
Let's see. What are communication barriers in our relationship?
Communication barriers. What does that mean? Like,
well, I mean, I think times when we have difficulty communicating. I mean, I think right now one with Natalie is one of like being tired. We're both so tired that we're not as we
can't express ourselves as well, and we don't remember things. So like yesterday, I forget what happened. Something happened, and we were both like, "I thought you were taking care of that," and like there was this huge like breakdown in communication, and we couldn't even remember the conversation we'd had about it. We were like so tired. I think when we were first married, it was just like we both communicated so differently. Just like growing up, how we grew up. Like I remember James, in my family, if you're really into a conversation, then people are talking and you kind of jump in to like insert your little 2 cents and then let them keep going. And James would be like, "Why are you interrupting me all the time?" And I'm like, "I wasn't interrupting you. I'm interested in what you're saying." And he's like, "But you're interrupting me." And I'm like, "You stopped talking for 2 seconds. That means you're done. Like, it's my turn." And so, I think it's just different things where you grow up different ways and are used to different forms of communication. And then you have to figure out how to communicate again together as a couple.
Yeah. And at least for me, I wasn't really used to like expressing my feelings. And so I've gotten better now, but it's like,
better.
It used to take me like literally like a week to think about a situation.
If something bothered him.
I was bothered by this. And I should say something to Tiffany because, unfortunately, the habit in my family was, well, if something bothers you, just think about it. And maybe you can just kind of internalize it and make it go away so that you don't cause any waves.
Yeah.
Not healthy.
Not healthy.
I didn't even realize I was doing that. I was just clueless.
Yeah.
I was just clueless.
We both have helped each other communicate better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we'll do one more, and then we will do this again. I think we'll probably just do it once a month or something. Depending on Natalie.
Let's see. Oh, I love this one from Carolyn. "I'm in college and only interested in guys a few years older because I'm more mature than those guys my age, early 20s.
I understand that. I've been there.
Yes.
At least I thought I was there.
I think that many girls are in that situation. Yeah. Should I try dating older guys or just wait a few years until my peers have matured?
I think it depends on who you meet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, especially if you're in college, I think it's totally fine to date guys who are older than you who are also in college. Guys out of college, it's just such a different situation. But yeah, if you're a sophomore and you want to date a senior, that's fine. Yeah, that's not a big deal. I mean, I think if you're in high school, you should probably not be dating people in college.
I think, again, it just depends on the situation. Every relationship is so different. There is no like always this way or always that way. It's just really like having people you trust who know you and know him and know you as a couple and speak into it and you listen.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is if you're interested in going on a first date, it's okay. You don't really need to find out anything more than that until you're actually
and to make sure he's not like a sketchy person who's gonna like abduct you from the date. That's like my fear.
I feel like everyone is going to be like, wow, this guy is weird and sketchy. I don't want to go on a date with him. But if you're thinking, oh, I met this guy, he seems nice, maybe I'll go on a date with him. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you find out on that date that he is not a Christian at all, he lives 4 hours away, maybe it's not, you don't go on a second date with him.
Yeah. But you don't have to know everything about him, basically. And do it safely, like maybe meet in a public place, have someone know where you're going, don't have him pick you up if you don't already know him.
Yeah. That's all good
advice. Do it all safely. Yeah. But that's totally fine. Yeah.
So
Okay.
Awesome. Guys, so many good questions that we didn't get to, but so many wonderful questions.
Thanks
you
for
so watching.
much for being with us. Let's maybe pray to close out, and then I'll keep you guys posted on the community page. And I think we'll probably start to do like one Sunday a month and just do this because it's fun and I liked it. Even if I was like,
good.
Oh. Okay. Okay, I'll pray. Jesus, thank you so much for this time together. And I pray for each of the amazing people here with us live. I pray that you just bless them this week, help them to just know how to love you and honor you in their relationships and have healthy relationships. In Jesus' name, amen.
Bye,
we
guys.
love
Thank
you guys.
This was fun.
Thank you so much for being with us. We'll talk soon. Bye.